we're living in a society where corporates are actually representing not only the industries that they're taking ahead of, but also the kind of countries that these corporates are made of. And also, those corporates are the head of industries and also the movement of free trade, and also one of the most influential factors of economy in the world today. But as a government side today, we see a problem that the trend is heading to. We're seeing certain industries actually taking advantage of the fact that when they go into certain countries, or whether it's a domestic industry or an international industry, when they actually step into these industries, the fact that some of the countries actually allow these industries to not pay tax and have free access of economic activity without paying tax, we're seeing that these companies actually taking advantage. And also, without even actually going to the specific cons, we're actually seeing these industries stepping over and going against the healthy movement that the international society overall is trying to create. No, thank you. With regulated and fair economic trade in overall. So we're saying that this is a problem that we're trying to make these countries engage in make these corporates engage in certain industries with fair game, fair competition, and at the end of the day, create international sphere that is leading trade in an equal game. So thank you. So as a Prime Minister, I want to first tell you the issue, why we're having this policy, and what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day with this policy. And first of all, our three substantials are very simple. First, I would like to talk about the purpose of business tax in principle level, why we actually collect tax from businesses. And second of all, why this overall is harmful in general picture to the industry and international society itself. And our Deputy Prime Minister is going to talk more specifically about the specific harms that certain corporates bring and the benefits that will be brought by the motion today. So first of all, moving on to the purpose of business tax. Now we know that taxes are supposed to be paid by business corporates, and that this is a necessary movement. Not because this only prevents certain countries from regulating these companies from doing illegal things, like for instance, making dirty money into clean money with illegal process that is not being persecuted under the law, but also because collecting tax also means that these corporates actually have more social responsibility to engage in the businesses that they do because of the fact that they're collecting tax and that the government is watching them over. Before I go on, yes?
I think it seems so weird, right? These guys never provided who is going to regulate because this is an international countries and their own job.
I think it doesn't have to be clearly defined because even the motion itself shows that if a government is trying to regulate it, that means that house belongs to each of the very individual domestic country that is having these industries. So we think that should be clarified to the opposition in this debate. So as the business, the purpose of business tax, right? The businesses actually give tax to these countries because they have certain social responsibility that they have to give access to the countries that they're doing. Like for instance, when a country is actually inviting foreign direct investment, these corporates actually have to give these countries like the kind of clean process that they're having when collecting labors or taking resources from these environments, right? Because without these kind of regulations, those kind of corporates, especially in the trend that we are having of big MNCs and KNCs or in the economic trade, we're seeing these people become a sort of dominant power and using authority to actually take advantage of these resources and labor. And we think that that is a problem, and that is why a lot of companies also collect tax. And another reason for collecting business tax is because if your company collects tax, that means that you're in a competition where there is a fair game between different corporates, right? For instance, if a company A is in a country that has tax haven, and if that corporate is also in another country that is not in tax haven, we think that those kind of competition, the healthy competition that we're trying to achieve at the end of the day, is not achieved because tax itself is a very influential factor to corporates' profit-making processes. That is why we think that we need to encourage fair competition, fair game between industries, not in moment. And also we want to talk about how this actually brings harms to industry in the state as well. First of all, we want to talk about how this specifically brings harms to the industries itself. First of all, we think that this is going to bring the harms to industry because when you actually look at the very own characteristics of certain businesses, certain corporates in the state as well, they're not just corporates that represent the kind of industry. Like for instance, if you say that you have Samsung phone, it doesn't mean that Samsung is only like a digitally aware, but also Samsung is a corporate that is representing that also sticks with national economy. Like for instance, if Samsung fails in its electronics, the Korean economy is very prone to get down, right? So we think that this kind of representing factor is the kind of trend and the kind of definition that we see as corporates in the international society today. So if these industries actually have certain excuse in certain specific nation to not pay tax and have free access to the industrial activity that they engage in, we think that this is going to harm not only the industries but also the countries themselves, because then the counterpart country would think that it's unfair that such regulations are given to specific industries, that certain excuses are given to industries. Before I move on, yes?
Okay, like the example that you gave was like MNCs. These companies
okay, I really wanted to hear the QI, but that's very yeah, but well, we think that I get your point that MNCs are the trend, but even though you have MNCs, Mr. Speaker, we think that the kind of representing factor still exists, right? Because a fight between Apple and Samsung is not just fight between those corporates, but also American consumers and Korean consumers who mostly consume that product, that industry. So we think that those factors still exist. But we want to talk more about how this actually harms the international sphere and it hinders the international movement towards collecting tariffs and creating tax between countries. Now that we know that international society itself is seeing the effect of intertwined economy, with a lot of economic crisis that has happened in numerous times the past few years, like 2007 American crisis, the European crisis that is happening right now, it shows the intertwinement not only between the countries but also between the corporates, right? And with this trend, we're seeing international societies actually trying to collect in a fair game where taxes are paid and competition is overall paid. And we think that unfair excuses is creating tensions between this movement to make a healthier free trade and also save the economy overall. So for these, and now our Deputy Prime Minister will talk more specifically about the harms and the benefits that can be achieved. For these reasons, we're very practical about it.
Thank you very much to the Prime Minister. I now invite the opposition leader to please take the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the House. Ladies and gentlemen, we think that we believe that in a PP debate or in any kind of debates, government side, especially openly government side, has a big responsibility to clarify certain terms in today's debate, clarify how this debate would like to go into. We think this responsibility wasn't necessarily full in this side of the House debate. So what are the points that we weren't clear about, which they should have been clear about? Firstly, regarding the term regulations, as we already heard from the POS, we think the term regulate means it can be in like variety of meaning. We think the term regulate wasn't never mentioned in the side of open government. So who is going to regulate what kind of company when these companies are, as they say, like multinational companies? Who is going to regulate them? How are they going to regulate them? Is it going to be banned or is it going to not ban? Like we don't want to be like nitpicking like what kind of how much percent you should be regulating, but we think at least there should be a minimum definition into where this debate is going. But we haven't heard that from the open government. Moving on to other rebuttals. Firstly, they said a lot about a lot of things like dirty money, how and this could be regulated by having no tax zones. We think that no tax havens. We think there wasn't a clear linkage between the idea of dirty money and governments being able to regulate these dirty monies and corporations having responsibilities to report to the governments and whatnot. We think there wasn't a clear linkage between how this policy would provide more dirty money, how this policy will prevent dirty money. We haven't heard any of those. Secondly, they talked about competition. They said competition needs to be fair and needs to be in a fair game in terms of society. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this into the reality. We think that this competition between companies are never fair, Mr. Speaker. We think even in the international level, we pay different tax rates for different countries. So as they would like to say, they say international societies should have fair tax rates and fair tariffs and everything. There is never a fair tax rates, fair tariffs. Why? Because there are different tax rates. Why? Because countries have different policies, differ from countries to countries. They have different economic systems. They have different policies within their countries that it makes it impossible to have fair game already in the status quo. Sir.
Are you negating the importance of making at least efforts towards improving fair competition among companies?
We think, okay, firstly, we think, as I told you, the term like at least making fair equity means it's really, really vague. We think just because you pay certain taxes doesn't mean that you're trying to do, you're making an equity in terms of competition. We think like in the early status quo, like you guys mentioned, MNCs and small companies or small international companies, like they can't even compete in the first place. So we think the idea of making fair trade itself doesn't really make sense. Also, they also talked about how these companies tend to represent certain countries, and it hurts the country's reputations or this image. Firstly, we think it's an assumption to say that just because some countries, some companies do some specific action, it doesn't necessarily mean that country that company belongs to will be targeted by, will be criticized because of the company itself. But secondly, as they like to mention, these corporations that use tax haven tend to be multinational corporations that are not necessarily bound to one or two specific countries, but that act in diverse countries. So we think the idea that it harms representation or it harms the reputation of certain countries doesn't really make sense. Moving on to our arguments, we have basically three things to tell you. Firstly, I'm going to tell you about how it's a right of this business, right of corporations, and how this is a principle of enterprise, and how this is a right of these companies. Secondly, I'm going to talk about how this also in the benefits of these nations, and how this is a right to these nations. And our Air Force guys would like to tell you about how this actually enables developing countries to develop even better. So firstly, to the idea about this entrepreneurship. We think that when it comes to business strategy, there are a lot of different business strategies corporations like to use. That is why certain companies go into like Chinese countries to build factories. That is why certain companies go to Indian factories to build certain countries, because it's a strategy they like to use. They like to use in certain countries, because we think that different countries have different characteristics that these companies can use. But what we believe in this entrepreneurship is that this business strategy of using tax saving or whatnot, we think it could be part of their strategy, and it could be part of their creativity itself. We think as long as they're abiding by the law, as long as they're not harming these people, as long as they're not exploiting these people, we think there isn't any problem regarding this. But thank you, sir. We think rather it's the right of this business to choose what kind of countries they would like to go in. We think it's rather right of these companies to choose what kind of strategies they like to use. We think tax saving is one of the strategies they like to use. They want to reduce the tax in order to develop other kind of products or invest in other types of things. We think it could be a strategy that we need to respect. Secondly, moving on to sure.
If those strategies are not equally given opportunities to every kind of industries, regardless of the countries or borders, do you think it's fair?
Okay, the term equally, as I told you, in every cases when government is making a contract with certain companies, it is never equal. Like some companies are able to make contracts with different countries, but some companies are not able to do that. We think it's the right of the companies, and we think it's the right of the nations to choose this, not international society to say no equal tariff or equal competition, whatnot. We think this idea is absurd. Moving on to the nations' right. We think the nations want to attract these companies to get into their countries. We think nations would like to use the comparative advantage to attract more companies. That's why we think certain countries focus on tourism, certain focuses on building factories or whatnot. We think it's a characteristics of these countries. We think that countries that use tax haven, one of the comparative advantages they can use is taxation. We think because they cannot provide cheap labor, they cannot provide a lot of labor or factories or resources. We think the comparative advantage they can use is taxation. We think this is absolutely fine, as I told you in the beginning, as long as it doesn't harm the people, as long as you're not illegally residing there, as long as you're paying them certain wages, as long as it is not illegal, we think it's absolutely fine. So basically, what have I told you today? We want to clarify that government side today haven't really told us how this debate is going to be led to. We think that was a major problem here. Secondly, we told you that companies have a right to use their strategy, their creativity, and entrepreneurship. Secondly, we told you that nations have different characteristics, and nations have right to use their characteristics to attract more people. And we told you that international society has no right to regulate these countries or companies which fight over the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we invite the Deputy Government to please take the floor.
Mr. Speaker, we believe the stance from the opening government side is very clear. By regulating, we mean exempting, we would eliminate such tax havens, meaning that would collect tax from these business areas. Because, Mr. Speaker, in the status quo, we see a lot of problem of tax havens, that certain certain corporations are being exempt from their taxes. We believe that's a problem, as the opening government has clearly told you. That's why we would like to impose business taxes into such areas. We do not see how that's very unclear. Now, Mr. Speaker, we have clearly told you how the movement of the international society itself is actually reaching towards a free interaction, Mr. Speaker. We are reducing tariffs. We are trying to reach a fair trade agreement. We're trying to form such areas, Mr. Speaker. However, we do not see how that movement itself goes along with imposing exemptions on your own domestic corporations, Mr. Speaker. Now, having said that, before I go into any of my arguments, I would like to rebut the opening opposition side. Well, the opening opposition side came up and said, well, the corporations aren't always fair. The trade itself, or the interactions between international societies, is always unfair. Mr. Speaker, we have to admit that sometimes it's unfair, because we can't unilaterally eliminate any kind of taxes or impose a unilateral tax. However, Mr. Speaker, we believe that we're not in a position to endorse such protectionism, and we believe that's not justified when you only prioritize domestic countries over others, when you close when you close your eyes and overlook that problem, when it even creates illegal acts, when it also endorses corruptions, as our Prime Minister has told you. Now, secondly, they've also talked about MNCs, that they're not only bound by one country. Mr. Speaker, they're not bound, or they're not limited by borders. However, they have headquarters of certain countries, like Sony, Mr. Speaker. They are MNCs, but they still belong to Japan. We do not believe how Sony cannot pay tax to the international society, but rather would pay tax to Japan, Mr. Speaker. No, sir. Now, they've also came up with an argument of right of the companies. They told us how these companies, as long as they are abiding the law, should have the right. Mr. Speaker, first of all, we told you that there's a high tendency with these companies to not abide by the law, or to go behind and hide under the sides of these governments. But furthermore, they talked about advantages, and they talked about strategies. Mr. Speaker, I clearly pointed out in the POI that it's not really a strategy if it's only given to certain countries. We believe this is an unjust advantage put to certain corporations rather than a fair strategy given to other corporations as well, Mr. Speaker. We also told you that corporations are trying to exploit such situation. We believe that's not an advantage, or it's not a strategy if you're trying to exploit and use benefit out of it, Mr. Speaker. They've also talked about countries having comparative advantage. Mr. Speaker, we haven't heard whatsoever of any of an analysis from the opening opposition side how a company loses a comparative advantage of its color if you are not exempt from taxes. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you go into another country and you are being imposed of a foreign direct investment tax to other countries, we do not see how Samsung going to America and are being imposed tax, that they lose comparative advantage. We believe the very comparative advantage comes from the very nature, or the very possibility, or the capacity, or the products of that company, rather than how much tax they're exempt from, Mr. Speaker. Now, having said that, I would like to move on to the arguments of my own. But before I go on, yes.
I think many countries have their own tariffs, right? Some countries put more tariffs, some countries put less tariffs. I want to get rid of all the tariff situations. I want to get rid of all the FTA.
Mr. Speaker, as I told you at the very first beginning, that imposing a unilateral 30% tax on every kind of corporation
international communities met this, Mr. Speaker. We believe this actually creates more division and discrimination against lesser competitive and smaller companies, which is very different from the current policy that we want to endorse businesses to grow, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, we believe that such policy only creates discriminations and polarizations between not only domestic but also international economies. Now, moving furthermore to our second argument about how tax exemption or tax havens gives more gray area to these corporations to abuse and corrupt. Mr. Speaker, first of all, if you do not collect tax, what does it mean? It means that the government cannot really monitor what kind of activities they're really engaging in. They questioned us about dirty money. We see that if the government does not monitor these corporations in what way they earn money or in what way they use their money, we believe this is obviously easy for these corporations to abuse this gray area because they now can go around the other way and use their money in illegal activities or engage in illegal activities or exploit such resources and so on, Mr. Speaker. In such situations, we believe that the government has a lesser say to regulate even further. We are encouraging such unjustifiable and illegal actions, Mr. Speaker, under the name of legitimacy and giving them an advantage. For these reasons, I'm very proud to propose.
Thank you. The deputy of the opposition, please take the podium. Mr. Deputy, please take the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been off society for around 8 months, and I'm not really sure how society is going on. But I think these two ladies here have a less cider ability to know what's going on, because they don't know how trade is going on, world economy is going on, and what really a tax haven is, and what their actual role is. Now, the whole government side here identified the problem of saying that it just leads to unfair trade, illegal activities, it harms the image of nations, and also some kind of saying that less competition in small nations. Now, first going on by one by one. Fair trade, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think that fair trade is when every nation has same tariff and tax? No, ladies and gentlemen. Why do we have different tax rates? Why do we have different tariff rates, ladies and gentlemen? This is because we think that they're all national strategies and they all have different reasons of why. And what they're saying is that just because one place has a lower tax than another, that's illegal because that goes against fair trade. However, ladies and gentlemen, you all already have different tax rates, so what are you saying in the first place, moreover? Moreover, ladies and gentlemen, they think that it's all leads to illegal acts. But what illegal acts? What dirty money? They have not really shown clearly what is the problem, how they're going to use it, and we think it's clear an assumption. Now, second of all, our second argument was about representing the nation and harms the image. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why is it that the government thinks that it's harming the image? I think it doesn't really, it's already off the debate. I think it's the MNC's right to choose wherever they want to pay taxes by choosing where their headquarters are. I don't really think it's the government's right to choose wherever it is. So I don't think their second argument makes sense at all. Third of all, ladies and gentlemen, they think that it leads to less competition in small countries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, tax havens, they don't just accept one haven. They can accept more than one, and also, they're most important, as my first speaker said, they do it by contract, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
We do it by contract, meaning it's an agreement. If they don't like it, they don't have to do it. Neither do the tax havens, ladies and gentlemen. So really, we don't really see how it's less competition. Well, we think that there's plenty of chances for small companies to show how they can actually, contribute to this tax haven. I mean, it's a contract, so I think it's not illegal, nor does it lead to less competition, because they all have equal chances.
On that point, Mr. Speaker, it seems surely impossible to give exemptions for every entire companies in that country. So where is that standard of choosing certain corporations
Well,
over the others?
The thing is that we don't, if they can't go into tax haven A, they can go to tax haven B, ladies and gentlemen. There's not only one tax haven. So we don't really think that's a big problem for small companies, ladies and gentlemen. Now going on, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go on with the argument of how, telling of how actually these tax havens help the developing nations give a better chance of investment in development nations. Now, today in the world of globalization, we think that competition is not at a local level, but at a global level. Even in companies and countries itself, you have to compete with other countries because in different aspects. I mean, we think that it's very hard, unless they try really hard, to have some kind of competitive advantage to survive in today's world. Especially, it's very hard for small developing nations because if these small developing nations don't have enough good infrastructure, don't have good education, a good labor force, or massive labor force, it's very hard for them to survive. So what can they do? We think that this tax haven system, this tax haven way, gives a chance for these small nations to actually gain investments and actually gain more help from the foreign policy. And we think that this government is actually blocking the chance for no really good reason of saying that it just blocks fair trade. Now, why is this so important for small nations? Because these small nations, small developing nations, they don't have good infrastructure, they don't have any competitive advantage, right? And they really dire need investment because they're just poor. So what happens here is that these small nations actually invite or attract these MNCs and companies. So they say that if you build us some of these roads, some water infrastructure, and all of these aspects, we'll give you a place, a tax haven where they don't have to pay tax. So the companies negotiate, and also they try to negotiate, and also it gives and then also there's an advantage for the small these developing nations or tax havens, so they can choose who they want to attract and not. So really think, ladies and gentlemen, by having these investments done from these companies, what happened here is that actually builds infrastructure where there never was in the first place, and also some kind of economic boom within the country itself because there actually is money coming in, people coming in, and more things coming in. We think that this is very dire and necessary for these developing nations. Anyone?
This is exactly why this shouldn't be done in a domestic level, but in the international level, which is actually happening. The corporations in the countries are agreeing and making a contract, trying to have a certain limitation on the tariffs or agreeing on a certain amount of tariff, meaning that corporations or domestic countries themselves can't or don't have to do it by themselves or eliminate taxes.
I don't really get why it's a bad thing because there already existence of free trade zones. We have already zones. So what? We don't really think why that is a problem for nations who are already small. They already have tax zones. Why we allow developed nations to have free trade zones? Why can't these developing nations have a zone where they don't have to pay taxes? We think again as to support our argument in the first place that it's a country strategy, a national strategy for these nations, which this side has never engaged upon in our argument. As I said before, as my first speaker said, this can be used as a national strategy for these companies, for these countries. As we already have free trade zones in Incheon, where business people of these companies they don't have to pay taxes in this zone. Same goes for this. We don't think there's a big difference or any negative happening of having this free trade zone as well as the tax haven, which the governments are not really identified at all because they're in a big assumption and so forth. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to summarize this whole debate just showing of how the stupidity of the government side of not understanding of how the global economy system goes.
Out of order.
Excuse me. Anyway, going on. So I want to talk about how they don't really know how the world economic system goes. We think that rather this tax haven system actually is a way of entrepreneurship, of promoting creativity, of business strategy, of trying to promote more attractive and more competitive companies within the globalization. And we think it's not good for the government or whatever some kind of force to stop this from happening. And second, that it is a national strategy. We think that they have a sovereign right to do so as a nation itself. And third of all, we think that this kind of system of allowing to happen actually gives nations, small developing nations, a chance to develop and go forth and actually try to survive or have some kind of advantage in this fierce competitive globalization. So ladies and gentlemen, the opposition side is clearly trying to oppose this as firm as possible. Thank you.
Thank you to that concludes the upper chamber debate. Can we please have the member of government take the floor? Before we begin the lower chamber debate, I want to remind all debaters to please be respectful of everybody. Thank you.
Alright, so moving into our speech, I would like to first start by rebutting some of the arguments that came out from the opposition side, and we're then going to provide the rebuttals, from the opposition side. Now, first of all, let's move on to their first argument, which talked about entrepreneurship. Now, it sounds as if the opposition side simply are true believers of capitalistic system and the free market. Now, free market, of course, is a good thing, but once the free market is pushed to an extent where the government's role is not actually being implemented, we have seen a lot of devastating effects of what happens when these entrepreneurships are able to be spread or are able to be operated without any type of limitation. Because while the companies have the rights to do so, they also have to pay the duties. However, the duty comes from the taxes which they pay. So by not paying the duty, they simply don't have the rights to do so. As long as they abide by the duty that they have the full rights to do whatever they want. But because they go against the duty which they have to provide the tax to a certain society, they simply do not go or should not be granted of their rights. Not now. And moving along with the second argument, which they talked about the benefits of the nation. So they simply talked about how when there are tax havens, these small countries benefit by having by inviting all the other companies, by then developing their societies and so on. But at the same time, these companies don't pay their taxes to their country. The countries don't have the budgets, which the country's budget comes from the tax, and they simply do not pay the taxes to the countries, and therefore the countries themselves, which the corporations are owned, don't really get to develop. The small nations, of course, develop, but the countries that have these corporations do not develop. And now let's move on to some of the rebuttals towards their rebuttals. These have been discussed somewhat throughout the debate. They talked about how it's impossible, or what we mean by dirty money, and how this system would actually go about finding out what dirty money is. But this will actually be elaborated during my arguments. And they also talked about amnesties, which is clearly that have been discussed thoroughly throughout today's debate. Before I move on to my arguments, yes.
Something we wanted to hear from the opening and closing as well. Why should nations have to be forced to choose companies that they don't like to have contract with? Why should they be forced to choose small companies or medium companies?
All right. I'm not sure if I understood the question correctly or wrong, but for the relevancy of that, point is really relevant to the topic. But I'm just going to move on with my arguments now. Our arguments or our extensions are basically we have three extensions. And how first of all, we're going to look at this from a governmental level. How from a governmental level it prevents or it disables the country's ability to account what's going on, because accounting is done through taxing and so on. And we're going to talk about we're going to further elaborate on the point. We're going to extend on the point about international conflicts, not only within the economic international conflicts, but how it also leads to other economic conflicts. And then we're going to talk about social harms. Now let's move on to our first section, the governmental level. So what it does is what business taxes do is they allow for the governments to do accounting. What government does by accounting or by collecting these samples or collecting the information regarding taxes, they plan their budgets, they inspect the companies' legal trading or whatever it may be within the companies, and the government simply uses the information regarding taxing accounts and does the accounting in what we know as the economics. Yes.
Okay, like some countries need companies, right? Even if they don't have any competitive advantage. And they will look for more cheap labors like China. Then don't you think